Wow, this gives new meaning to we are returning. It really does to be back here. I have missed this so much because storytelling is, as I say, a contact sport. And I can't do it without you. And when I do it on Zoom, it's not the same. So I am so grateful to be here. And usually on High Holy Days, I will find a traditional story to tell and mix it up and make it my own. But this year I kind of took the soul temperature to see, what's going on out there and in here. And I sensed something in the air. And it wasn't just the smoke, it was fear. We're going through very scary times now, right? We're often surrounded by fires, and we have global climate change and disasters all around. And of course, the pandemic still. And I thought, well, I will tell not a traditional story, but my story. I have a personal story about fear. But before I decided to do it, I thought I would take my annual walk up to the place, what I call now my soul trees or ancestor trees, up above the TID ditch, a place where I slide down. And some of my other stories take place there, so you may be familiar with this place. So I walked through the woods, and as I was walking, I sensed my own fear in the world, my fear of not knowing. When I see someone approaching, I hope it's a person, not a bear. And a woman, preferably. You girls know what I mean. And I sensed that, but I came to that place, but I immediately saw that it wasn't going to be safe for me to slide down there this year. I'm 71 now, and that's okay. I found a place just across from it, leaning against a little TID pump. And I sat there, and I could still see the tops of those trees, and I could feel the emanations. And I tried to quiet my mind, not an easy task, and sit there and inhale that beautiful Elul air. And then I heard something approaching. And I looked down, and I could see is what looked like a person and a dog. And as they got closer, I could see it was a man, probably around my age, and a little black dog. Well, there's lots of dogs and people that come on the TID ditch, so I thought I'll just sit quietly and I'll wait for them to pass by. But all of a sudden, that little dog started racing towards me, charging me, growling, barking, snapping, ferociously racing towards me. And what did I do? I just started talking to the dog. I said, "It's okay. It's okay. It's all right, buddy. You could say hello. It's okay," because it's the only thing I could think of to do. I was just doing it, saying, "It's okay." And the dog kept racing closer and closer. The man did not do anything. And the dog kept coming closer and closer, barking louder and louder. And I kept saying, "It's okay. It's okay." Now, was I talking to the dog or was I talking to myself? At the time, I thought I was talking to the dog. In retrospect, I see it a little bit differently, but I kept saying, "It's okay, it's okay." And he kept barking and ferociously snapping and racing towards me. And suddenly he just stopped about a foot away. And I held out my hand for him to sniff my hand. And I said again, "It's okay, you can say hello." But he didn't. He just circled around me. And then his owner came up. Never mind the surreal conversation I had with the dog owner. That's another story. And then they turned around and went back. And I sat there and I could feel the adrenaline just surging through me, and I could feel it beginning to drain. And I thought, yes, that story about fear, that's the right story. So here it is. This story happened 30 years ago, and I've told it a few times here. You may remember it. And on that day, I always preface it actually by saying that I have a lot of fears. I'm sure you have your own, but I have fear of new situations, fear of not being good enough, fear of not being liked, fear of failure. You probably have your own list. fear of spiders. My granddaughter, it's a fear of snakes. You have your own thing, right? But I have tried over and over in the years to deal with these fears in different ways. I have tried confronting them. I have tried avoiding them. I have tried talking to them. I have tried negotiating. But all in all, I can get through one and get over and around and so on, but then another one just comes up. It's kind of a constant. And on this morning, 30 years ago, I was experiencing one of my fears. It was fear of calling school principals to get storytelling bookings. Now, remember, this was 30 years ago, so all of the principals pretty much were men. And my mother had told me some 30 years before that, when I was a young teen, she had said that I was never allowed to call boys on the telephone, ever. And here I was, calling not just any boy, but the school principal. What if he said, "No, I don't want you"? Well, every time I'd go to the phone, it was a push button phone then, my fingers would freeze. And I thought I would employ one of my strategies for dealing with fear, which was avoidance in the form of exercise. I figured if I got thoroughly aerobically exhausted enough, then I could come back and do what I needed to do. So I went, in those days, I used to go to the college track. It's a couple blocks away. And I would do a thing called running stairs. Believe me, I don't do it anymore, but I would warm up a few times around the track, and then I'd go over to the standing bleachers and run up those stairs, up and down, until I was thoroughly exhausted. So with that in mind, I went to the track. Now, as soon as I got there and I walked into the track part and I looked up on the stands, I could see that there were already some people on the stands, just a few, and it was what looked like a group of young men, and they were shouting things, making a lot of noise. Well, groups of young men making a lot of noise are high on my list of fears, so I was not going to go right up onto those stands. So I started warming up, running around the track, and each time I passed by the stands, I'd find out a little bit more. And as I passed by, I saw there were what looked like 3 young men, and they were wearing camouflage attire. I thought, that's odd. And I kept running around, and the next time I went by, I thought I heard a woman's voice, but I didn't see any women there. And I kept on running, and they kept on not going away. And I said to myself, you know, Deb, if you're going to get some exercise today, that's what you came for. You're going to have to go over onto those stands, whether you're afraid or not. And so I started walking towards the gate that goes into the stands. But in my mind, I formed a contingency plan in case of attack. There had been another woman. She was literally lapping me on that track. She was the kind of young woman on which nothing jiggled. And every time that she passed me, she had a long braid and it swished in my face. And I had been thinking, what is the use of such a woman? But now I thought, aha, now I have a use for her. In case anyone grabs me or attacks me, I will scream for her and she'll go get help. She's so fast. And my mind was doing that for me as I approached the stands. And I walked onto the stands, and as soon as I got up a couple of steps, I could see better, and I could see that what was going on was not at all what I had envisioned. There were 3 young men up near the top, and they were dressed in camouflage attire, and I realized they were National Guardsmen on a maneuver, and I saw way on the top ledge, probably 100 feet in the air, there was a young woman, and she was balanced on that ledge, holding onto a rope, and she was supposed to rappel backwards as a confidence maneuver. And she was in terror, and she was saying, no, I can't do it. No, I think maybe we'll come back and do it another day. How about if we get down and we'll do it another day? And these men who I had thought were maybe muggers or rapists, they were encouraging her, and they were saying, no, you can do it. breathe, bend your knees, lean back. And she was saying, no, I can't breathe. I can't lean back. No, I'm not doing it. And the National Guardsmen turned around and they noticed me because I was mesmerized by this scene. And when they noticed me, I said, hi. And then I kind of said, Deb, this isn't your drama. Let them do their thing. And I walked over to the other side of the stands and I started running stairs. I started running up and down the stairs. But of course, I found myself unconsciously rooting for her. I wanted her to do it. And I thought maybe I could send her some kind of telepathic courage. So I was thinking as I was running up and down those stairs, okay, just because you're a girl and they're guys doesn't mean you're not just as brave as they are. But she wasn't getting the message. Okay, you wouldn't have joined the National Guard if you didn't want to do brave things. She wasn't getting that either. And I kept on thinking these thoughts and running up and down the stairs. And I was getting tired. She kept on not jumping and they kept on encouraging. And it was going on for a long time. But after a while, I could feel things were coming to a head. I heard someone from behind the stands, someone who I hadn't seen, calling up, okay, it's been 40 minutes. Are we going to get some lunch today? And she was saying, yeah, lunch. Let's go get some lunch. We'll go get lunch and then we'll come back and I'll do it when we get back. And they were saying, no, you can do it now. Just breathe, bend your knees, lean back. And I had to send her some courage. I rooted myself down to the bottom steps and I thought, okay, I am going to send her a telepathic message. Come on. You know you can do it. I know you can do it. But she wasn't getting the message. I thought, how can I? Well, maybe I could pray for her. All right, I'm going to pray for her. That'll do it. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim. Oh, no, she's probably not even Jewish. She is not going to get that. And I closed my eyes and then I opened them again. And all of a sudden, from way on the top ledge on the other side of the stands, her eyes locked with mine. And she screamed down at me, "Are you gonna save me?" And I found myself screaming back at her, "No! You can do it!" My voice rang out all over the track and all over the field, and the National Guardsmen turned and stared at me, but I just kept on screaming. And I said, "Find that place inside yourself that knows you can do it, and let that place take over!" My voice rang out all over Oregon. But she leaned back and went over. And I could hear her calling up to them, and the National Guardsmen were calling back to her, and they were guiding her down. And I limped off the stage. I was shaking. There were tears streaming down my face. And I began my cool down phase, limping around the track. And I walked around, and as I came around close to the stands again, they were coming out. They were practically carrying her. There was a look of great relief on her face. And as she came around and as I approached, she stopped and she looked at me again and she said, "That was the scariest thing I ever did." And I said, "I know." And then they went off, probably to lunch. And I walked home the 4 or 5 blocks to my house. But all the way there, I kept hearing those words echoing in my mind. Find the place inside yourself that knows you can do it, and let that place take over. And I didn't know where I had found those words, where they had come from, or how I had found them. But I knew I had found them not just for her, but also for me. And it's been 30 years since that day. I've told that story a few times, and those words have come up to inspire me, to comfort me over these 30 years. But I still have a lot of fears. You know, my fears have changed as I'm aging, and I look around and I see a few people who's going to know what I mean. You know, I'm more fear of living in an aging body, fear of dying, actually fear of not being all I can be before I die. And we all have to add to that list collectively, right? Fears of global warming and pandemic and so on, right? But my relationship to fear has changed a little over the years. I've tried more to sit with it, to make friends with it, to look it in the face, kind of like that little dog running towards me and saying, it's okay, buddy. It's okay, you can say hello. So the one thing that I know also after 30 years is that when we sit here at High Holy Days, we do come here because we know there is a place deep inside that we can all find. And that's why we're here, to reconnect with our purpose in life. And when I think back to that incident 30 years ago, what moves me most is not the drama of it, not that I yelled, not that she went over, but that two strangers, met in a moment of fear and lent each other courage. And I hope we can do that for each other in our inner journeys in these High Holy Days. And so may we all, in these scary times, in these High Holy Days, may we all find the place inside ourselves that knows we can do whatever we have to do on an inner level or out in the world. And may we help each other find the courage to let that place take over. Thank you. Shana Tova. It's great to be back.
Amen.